Welcome to Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples, a channel of conversation and board games.
Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples. Today on the channel we are looking at this little stack of cards. 10 cards from the game of Everdell. This is a stack of 10 forest locations. These are my favorite forest locations in the game of Everdell. Of course, if you follow the channel, you know that my wife and I, Nicole, we absolutely adore and love the game of Everdell. We played it over 230 times. We like it a lot. We've done a top 10 list of player powers. Link to that video in the description of this one. A top 10 video of our favorite cards. And so now I'm just going to dive in a little bit more my top 10 favorite forest locations. And there's going to be a recurring theme, I guess, in this top 10. Yeah, we'll discuss that a little bit later. But let's start with my number 10. And this is from the base game Everdell. I will also say that these cards are from, obviously, the base game, potentially Pearlbrook, New Leaf, as well as the Belfair expansions. All of those have additional forest locations that you can mix in. I will say that I typically shuffle all my forest locations in, and I play with any combination at any given time. So this is from the base game, and this is the Royal Sampler. This is just a twig, a resin, and a berry. Of course, you don't get the pebble, the coveted pebble, only basic location in the base game, only place to get a pebble, but these forest locations will help you out. But this one specifically won't. But this just gives you options. You don't know where to go. You don't know, like, what do I need? You know what? This is just a good bet to just get a few different things that you can potentially then use further down the line, and gives you a little bit of a starting camp as to what to do. So that's my number 10. My number 9, if you follow the channel, you also know that I love the monk. And this is a monk's best friend. Of course, the monk's power, you can donate berries to an opponent. And you can donate up to 2 berries to an opponent. For each one you donate, you get 2 victory points. So 2 berries is 4 victory points. This will let you stock up with the berries. It also will let you play the majority of the critters in Everdell, which is fantastic. Of course, the king, the queen, the doctor. There's a few other ones that will cost you more than 3 berries, but this is just, a good way to get 3 berries and play, I would say, upwards to 90% of the critters in the game. So always a good one. Number 8, from Belfair. This is all about resin and 3 resin. You combo this with the Otters player power. With the Otters, you can build any construction with just resin. So resin can replace either a twig or a pebble. This is just your best friend. Your eyes are going to light up when you see this and you're the Otters, and you're going to try to go to this location kind of every season so that you can get a lot of resin. Of course, with this, you can then build your resin refinery, and then you get another resin right away. So always a fun time. Back to the base game. This would, I guess, it'd be my number 6, 10, 9, 8, number 7. This would be number 7. This is just any 2. Sometimes you don't know exactly what you need, and sometimes you're like, oh man, I really need 2 twigs right now, or I really need, well, I guess 2 twigs has a shared location, but sometimes, like, I really need 2 resin, and yet someone's at the 2 resin, or I really need 2 pebbles. Well, here you go. You go here, you can get any 2. So that's always a nice option. Number 6, kind of like the berries and the resin, kind of fitting that this one would show up. Also from Belfair, you pick 2 resin or 2 berries. So it's kind of almost like the best of both worlds for my number 9 and 8 picks. But I can choose which world I want to visit. The world of resin or the world of berries. So this, always a fun time. Next up, top 5. This is from New Leaf, and let's just call this forest location the farm, because you go there, you get the resources to build a farm. If you're not playing with player powers, You would typically have to use 2 workers to gain the resources for a farm. But with this forest location, you send your first guy out there, your second turn, build that farm, and you are off to the races. Number 4, Pearlbrook. It's a little bit of a different beast. If you haven't played Pearlbrook, you do not have special events. You have special events. You don't have basic events. You have wonders, and those wonders need lots of resources to discard, and pebbles are often difficult to come by. So this forest location gives you 2 of them and a card. This is the first one that shows a card. Most of the time, I do not go to forest locations that give me or grant me cards. I don't mind the ones that I can trade cards in for resources, but very seldom do I go to ones that grant me cards, because I feel they're not necessarily worth it. The market, that's a different story, because you get cards and resources. But I don't know, if you're playing and you have the historian, and then if you're playing legendary critters, you have foresight, or if you're playing with New Leaf, that has more cards, that lets you gain cards after you've played cards, either built constructions or whatever. I believe it's the museum that gets you more cards. So I don't typically go to forest locations that grant me cards, but if it grants me 2 pebbles, sign me up. I am there. Top 3, let's do this. This is from New Leaf as well. And it piggybacks with the squirrels player powers. It's good on its own, but with the squirrels, it's elevated a little bit, because if you know the squirrels player power, every time you send a worker out to gain twigs, you gain an additional one. So you send a worker there, 5 twigs. That's amazing. If you have, you send a worker here, if you have the lookout, then you can copy this, and if you're the squirrels, you are just going to be absolutely cruising. Of course, with these twigs, you build resources, but you can also use these twigs if you're building the wood carver, and the wood carver lets you virtually sell twigs for victory points. Or if you're playing with the juggler and the extra expansion, the juggler then can pay 3 twigs for 4 victory points, or you can discard a twig to flip over a card from the deck. And if ever the point value of the cards is 6 or greater, then you get 6 victory points. And it's a common critter, so you can do it again and again and again. So that's awesome. I love 4 twigs. But I don't love it as much as this one, also from Pearlbrook. And this is 1 berry, 1 pebble, and 1 card. Man, if you get the innkeeper and the crane to start your game, or say you have one in your hand and the other one's in the meadow, and you have this forest location and you can activate it, for 1 worker you can build your innkeeper as well as your crane, and then you have the 2 governance cards, so you can go to the river destination to gain that first pearl. Man, that is like one of the best startups I can imagine. Even if you're not playing Pearlbrook and you have, an innkeeper and a crane, and you have this forest location, this is like seriously fantastic. So much fun. I love it when it works out. And when my opponents, specifically Nicole, activates that and it works out for her, I love it a little bit less. But not to be outdone, this is my number 1. This is from the Belfair expansion, and I remember when I saw this one on the Kickstarter page, I looked at this and I was already like, oh my, there are some seriously amazing combos that can be used with this card. So when I saw it, I didn't even have the physical copy. I was excited already at that point. And that is, it's upside down. Flips your world upside down. Activate 2 production cards in your city. And yes, this might seem not as good, but let me convince you as to why I feel this is like one of the best. Well, to me it's my favorite, so I think it's the best one. Depending on your strategy and how many production cards, and depending if you're playing like New Leaf and you're playing base game or extra or whatever, this is absolutely amazing. For 1, if you have a chip sweep and any other production card, you can really use this to your advantage. Storehouse. Activate your storehouse twice, okay? Activate your, town crier twice. Give cards away for victory points. Your monk. Just build that berry engine. Go here. Activate your monk. Chip sweep, monk. Do it again. I've seen someone activate their monk like 4 times in a game with the help of this card. If you're playing with Spirecrest, it's even more fun because you put a guy here, and then if you can have Greycloak's Hideout, you can move the guy from this to Greycloak's Hideout to reactivate this again. It's just endless fun when you have specific cards in your city. The Carnival, you can activate again if you have a chip sweep. Again, I keep saying chip sweep, but that's absolutely fantastic. The Magician lets you activate, when you activate the Magician, you can discard a card in your city. I'm always feeling like I need more spaces in my city, and this will allow me to activate my Magician and then my chip sweep to do my Magician again. And if you do that later in the game, when you've already used, say, your Postal Pigeon or your Bard to their full potential, and you don't have room in your dungeon, you can use your Magician to get them out of there to free up more space in your city, and on and on and on it goes. So this is by far my favorite forest location in the Everdell universe. So there you have it. My top 10 forest locations. What are your favorite forest locations? Let me know in the comments below. My name is Brent. Check us out on Facebook. Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples. Remember, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember to grab your umbrella because the forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.